Okay, we're in Tez Zayin and Beis. We got to the two dots that the idea of a mechitza tuluya only was allowable by water. And let's just see any Rashi. Right, so let's just do the right thing, Rashi before that. Mechitza, so we do the Rashis, 2 lines before the wide lines, towards the bottom there. It says, Mechitza tzuya mi boile, the Shaila, according to Rav Ashi, was not about any type of question regarding the whole horizontal situation, whether, Oibim Ruba, not Oibim Ruba, that whole thing. No, that wasn't about that. It was about a Mechitza tzuya, about Tzelos Asoros, Shegbiyam and Akarka, Shosha Yoser, right? Right. So does the solid have the ability to negate the opening, even though the opening is 3 tvachim or more, because I have so much solid? Maybe I can overwhelm it. Maybe you're willing to, sort of forego the fact that it's 3 tvachim off the ground, because I have to look what else I have going for me. So, bottom line, the answer was no. It only works. It does work in some cases, but it's got to be mayim. Lahatir lamalois, okay, to allow you to fill up water into your pitcher and to bring it up. If you have these hanging walls and you're above it and you want to, carry it through the Rishus Yachid, that could work. Could go in gustra shehilamaylam and amayim. You have some kind of a porch or something that's above the water, some planks that are extending over, perkates of mishtatfin, like we learned earlier. Okay. And that brings us to the next Gemara. Okay, so we're still analyzing this Mishnah. Mekifin bekonim. So we went from ropes to the reeds. And these reeds and these poles, they're vertical, they're not horizontal. And everything is good as long as they're at less than 3 tvachim apart, then there is no problem in using them. Loved is a fundamental, principle in Shas, and therefore go ahead and make your walls with reeds. So now the Gemara, however, says, "Mekifim bekonim b'shayara in b'yachid loy." So the Gemara starts off analyzing Rabbi Yehuda, who said that this allowance only works b'shayara. Right, that was a statement of the Mishnah. So Rabbi Yehuda tells us that it was only by Yeshayara. So really, is that really true, says the Gemara? B'shayara in b'yachid loy? Is that really the case that a yachid is not allowed to, according to Rabbi Yehuda, not allowed to rely on these poles to form fencing for himself on Shabbos? Only a caravan, which we already learned is 3 people or more, that makes up a caravan. Is that really the rule? But Tanya, but then we learn in the Brayso Yehuda Aimer Kol Mechitzai Shabbos Lehi Tirul Yachid Yosef Beis Hasayim, that all mechitzas of Shabbos were not allowed for a yachid. Yosef Beis Hasayim. We talk about mechitzas. These shvach mechitzas. These mechitzas of either horizontal or vertical poles or ropes. However, whichever direction you're going in. But they're shvach. They're not relying on lovud, and they're just, they're one-dimensional in terms of what they do. They're not really closed. They don't really close up the situation. So all these mechitzas of Shabbos that we mattered, lo yitil yachid yosef beis hasayim. We never mattered for yachid more than 2 beisos. Okay, this is Rabbi Yehuda talking now, right? This is a Brayso Rabbi Yehuda Aimer. So if Rabbi Yehuda is saying that all mechitzas of Shabbos never worked more than 2 saz, sounds like even for Yachid, right? He doesn't say anything about a Shayara here. Sounds like even for Yachid, okay, the poor guy in 237 standing all alone, right? There's no caravan, there's not 3 people. So, and yet for Rabbi Yehuda, he says it works as long as it's not more than 2 saz. 5,000 square amas. So, what's pshat? We have a contradiction between one Rabbi Yehuda and the other. So the Gemara answers, "Kadam Rav Nachman v'Taim Rav Bibi bar Abaye lo nitzruch elitelem kol tzarchon." Just like Rav Bibi bar Abaye said in his context, where he explained and we'll get to his context momentarily, but he explained in his particular issue that he was dealing with, that the entire issue was about giving them as much space as they need, meaning more than Beis Hasayim. just like he said that concept in answering the problem he was facing, that same answer could be given here. Litein lehem kol tzorchan. That the Pshat Rabbi Yehuda, when he said he didn't buy the idea of these makeshift shvacha walls only for shayara, he didn't mean it all. He meant litein lehem kol tzorchan, to give them everything that they need. If their required space is more than 2 saws, that's where he chimed in with his limitation. He didn't mean in the Mishnah, even though it doesn't say it. It's obviously a lot is missing, but that's what he meant. And the Brisa clarifies what he meant. That he meant that I don't like these makeshift walls to allow somebody to carry in a place more than Beis Hasayim. That's where I meant it's only for shayara, that you can go above. Two saws, but for Yachid, Yachid can go up to Beis Hasayim. That's what Rabbi Yehuda said. That's what he meant, and that's Pshat in the Mishnah. So the same limitation and explanation of Rav Nachman Yitzchak applies over here as well. Or Rav Nachman, not Rav Nachman, either Rav Nachman or Rav Biba Bar Abaye. So too, that same answer goes for this particular case. Okay, so Heicha Itmas, once we mentioned Rav Nachman or Rav Biba Bar Abaye, take your pick, whichever one it was, different opinions. Where is that said? So now I can understand fully the whole spiel here. So Heicha Itma, where was that said? The Rav Nachman, Vitem Rav Biba Bar Abaye, where was this statement of Rav Nachman or other people say Rav Biba Bar Abaye? On what situation was it spoken about? Ahadatan. It was on this Mishnah, very familiar Mishnah as well, because it's our Mishnah. We learned in a Mishnah called Mechitza, our Mishnah called Mechitza She'ena Shel Shesi Ve'ev Eina Mechitza, Devar Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda. Right, so we had another problem. So we started today with the steer in Rabbi Yehuda. We now continue today with the steer in Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda. Okay, what's the steer? In our Mishnah, what does Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda say? You cannot use any fencing that's not both Shesi and Erev. I will not allow one-dimensional either all around you with ropes or vertically through poles. I will not allow it unless it's both Shesi and Erev, right? That's what our Mishnah says. And we would have said that's what he's referring to in all cases, assuming that, based on those words, that if a Yachid anybody wanted to make a fence like that, it would not work. To which we now ask a steer, really? Umiyam Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda Hachi, the Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda indeed say such a all-encompassing limitation. Vatanya echad yachid v'echad shayara lechavalim, that whether you are a yachid or a shayara, you can use ropes. Okay, it's valid to use these ropes, which are again one-dimensional. They only go in one direction, and he's saying it's valid. Uma ben yachid l'shayara. And what's the difference between a yachid and a shayara? If they're both permissible, for ropes they're both okay. So what is the difference? If you're one person, you get 2 saws for these ropes. Shnayim, if you're 2 people traveling, you get 2 saws again for traveling. If you're 2 people, so 1 or 2. You're limited to 2 saws. Gimel nasu shayara. Once you're 3, you become a caravan. Okay, divrei Rabbi Yehuda. And if once you get to the level of 3 people, then you get 6 base saws. Okay, so you triple the amount of 5,000. So, but 15,000, right? Squared amos. So. But who says this? Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. These are the words of Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda, seemingly willing to buy in, okay, to the idea that for a yachid it could work. The idea of only ropes could work up until a certain level. The Chum disagree and said echad yachid echad shayara. Whether you are a yachid, whether you're a caravan, ma'islam kol tzarchan. Okay, I give you everything you need. And even though you are an individual, if you're making ropes surrounding you, okay, it does not. There are no limitations to how big your area can be. Uvad shelo basis panui. I'll agree with you about one point, one small point. You just can't have a lot of open space where you're being surrounded to give yourself like a bonanza type feel, where you've got acres and acres of open acreage surrounded by your by your ropes. So you want to make it the ponderosa, that doesn't work. Okay, so another uvan shloya basis sign punny. If you have space you need, go right ahead. I don't care how big. You can have you can have Yankee Stadium and you can fill it up and it's all good. As long as you're going to use that full amount, you can surround it with ropes. But the minute you want to have your whole your area and you want to have open space, you cannot have more than slightly less than 2 saws open space. The minute you get to 2 saws open space, like that aleph over there, okay, that is not acceptable. So that's where the Chacham come in. So they don't make it a din of Yachid versus Shayara, like Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda does. They make it a din of, do you have unusable space or unusable space? An unusable space of 2 saws is not going to cut it. So we have a stira, right? So we have, this is where Rav Nachman or Rav Biber Bar Abaye chimed in, where to answer this problem. What's the problem? In our Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi sounds like he says ropes will never work, right? Shesi will never work and Eruv will never work. You need Shesi and Eruv, which sounds like it never works. And yet, here in this brisa that we just quoted, Rabbi Yossi seems to say it will work as long as you don't go more than 2 saws. So what's going on? So Rav Nachman. So here, once we're in the swing of things, we almost see the answer, almost staring at us. I guess once we sort of were given the the idea. So Rav Nachman, V'teimer of Biber Abaye, lo nitzruch eli teilem kol tzarchan. Now Rabbi Yossi Yehuda said what he said originally in the Mishnah. It only was about the idea of, can I give you whatever you want? Can I allow you to be as big as you need, even when it surpasses sasayim, 2 saws? And the answer is no. That's where Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda limited. Just like Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda was talking in the context of going above and beyond 2 saws, Rabbi Yehuda also was talking about going above and beyond 2 saws. But up until Sasayim, up until that area, 5,000 square amis, indeed, Rabbi Yehuda will grant that it will work, that the chavalim will work. You don't need dafka shayara. You only need a shayara to go above 2 saws. So it's a very similar structure that we're sort of now redefining the context of our Mishnah to be talking not about a smaller surrounding area but rather a bigger surrounding area, and can you go above 2 saws? But less than 2 saws seems like everyone seems to be very lenient about this whole situation. Okay, let's catch up on the Rashis here. Kol mechitza Shabbos. So 2 lines, a second wide line on the bottom. Kol mechitza Shabbos bahanach mechitzas ruos. We're referring to not kol mechitzas like any mechitza, but all the bad mechitzas, all the weaker mechitzas, shein the shesi o the air, that they're either going vertically or horizontally. Kama shetir l'rama de'etchak. So we said that we are allowing it for the multitude, not easily, but de'etchak. And we'll give you a heter, but it's not so smooth. We're not really big fans of this one-dimensional type of fencing. Okay, and therefore we're not going to allow it more than 2 saws. Okay, so that was the introduction to Astira in Rabbi Yehuda. So lo utim liyachid. Let's continue in explaining Rabbi Yehuda's statement. Lo utim liyachid ihekef ben yosef beisasayim. If you surrounded more than 2 saws worth of area, okay, for Yachid it's not going to work. Yavagav shuka fadira, even though you need, you have a big entourage, you got a lot of people, so it's not pshat. You're not doing this because you want, a ranch kind of feel. You're doing this because you have a lot of people in your group, and you have a lot of things you have to unpack, and therefore you need more than 2 saws just to get rolling in terms of enough space to get everything in. So even, I'm sorry, says Rabbi Yehuda, even if that's what you're doing, and you need 3 saws, 3 base saws in order to get everything in, you can't have it. You just cannot have it. You need to get everything into 2 saws, to 2 base saws, and that's just the way it is. Mayor of Shabbos, because he did this to be able to settle down for Shabbos and live in that area. A base asami is shari. So if you want to go more than base two base saws, it'll be no good. It will not be acceptable. If you want to keep everything within two base saws, Rabbi Yehuda grants it. So it sounds like he doesn't grant it at all in the Mishnah. So what's going on? He says, no, litel and kol tzarchan. The whole context of what Rabbi Yehuda's statement was about going above two saws. Next Rashi, the hadakam Rabbi Yehuda b'shayara dibru vol yachid litel and kol tzarcha. When Rabbi Yehuda said, I'll give you everything you need for a shayara, but not for yachid, it was about this very issue of everything you need above two saws. Litel and kol tzarcha b'hanach mechitzas kamar. Okay, is referring to giving you everything in these types of makeshift, weaker mechitzas. But it only was about kol tzarchan, going above and beyond the two saws, which is like a minimal shear. That you definitely give a guy. Even Rabbi Yehuda didn't argue about that. He didn't require shayara for just even the basic allowance of using these mechitzas. He only meant it to go above two saws for a shayara. That's what he meant. Since you are surrounding an individual for the purpose of living there, there's not a luxury item. Okay, he needs it to live, and he needs to encamp over Shabbos. And in this regard, a shayara is better and certainly gets a greater allowance. There you give him a shayara, you get as much as you want. You want 10 base saws for a caravan? Go right ahead. I'm not going to, limit you, but I will limit you when you're talking about a yachid, which is one or two people. Okay, so just like we answered the steer in Rabbi Yosef Bar Yehuda, we use that same type of answer to answer the steer in Rabbi Yehuda. L'chavolim. Okay, this was Rabbi Yosef Bar Yehuda's statement about ropes. Mutter behekif chavolim, you are allowed to surround your area with ropes. Even though it only goes in one direction, horizontally, it's still okay. And that's certainly, chavolim is horizontal, konim is vertical. Noisla basis sign, you give him two saws, mechitzazu. With this type of mechitza, avol mechitza ma'isa, kamadeboy. If you had a valid shesi ve'erev mechitza, then we wouldn't be limiting you. Again, this is all for the sake of dira, because and we said many times that if you're hooking for dira, if you're hooking, you're surrounded for the purpose of living, then there's no limitation. The only limitations come in is when you're going above and beyond. But in Rabbi Yosef Bar Yehuda holds, since you're doing such a shvacha wall, even when it's hooker for dira, I give you a limitation. The limitation is two saws. You can't go above two saws. Okay, the Chacham disagree. The Chacham came along in the Bryce and said you can have as much as you want if it's hukuf ladira. Okay, even if you're a yachid, you don't require shayaras. However, as long as shloye basis sign punis, I'll give you as much as you need, but as long as you don't have two saws open. I don't allow you to surround more than what is necessary basis sign. Of two base saws worth of area. Whereas I'll give you some extra space up to anything slightly less than two base saws. That I'll give you. But the minute you get to two base saws more than what you need, that's where I say that's too much already, and even the Rabbanon will limit you and say that's not acceptable. So it's got to be for basic living space and a little bit more. I'll give you a little bit of room to stretch, take a little spazier on Shabbos, but I'm not going to give you, wide-ranging loose space way up to two saws, because that's too much. Okay. So we asked the stira. Rav Nachman came along with the answer, or Item or Biba Bar Abaye came along with the answer of Litin Lehem Kol Tzarchan. Rabbi Yosef Bar Yehuda too, when he was saying that I limit the amount of space for the case of the ropes, is only in a situation of giving you as much as you want. Hadakam Rabbi Yossi, last Rashi on the page. Hadakam Rabbi Yossi the Masis and Dana Mechitza, that I don't consider this to be a Mechitza, which sounds like, again, an all-encompassing statement, that boom, I don't let you use it at all. What he meant to say, it's not a mechitza to give you whatever you need. Of a mechitza he lebeis sign, but it is a mechitza regarding the issue of two saws. Le'echad, okay, One second. But it is enough of a mechitza to give one person 2 saws and a caravan 6 saws. That it is good enough for. But and therefore you do it to say that it will never work is not true. So nobody's saying these things never work. Even though we had a lot of limitations in Mishnah, at the end of the day, those limitations were really for above 2 saws. But under 2 saws, it will work for an individual, and even Rabbi Yehuda is motive to that, Rabbi Yehuda is motive to that, and therefore right now all is good. Okay, so let's see here. We're ready to go weiter. 2 dots. Okay, so now we're going to. So we're staying with the same sugi, even though we have hit the 2 dots, but we're sort of just further expanding this. Let's go back into the Gemara. It's the Darash of Nachman, Mishum Rabbeinu Shmuel. 5 lines from the bottom. Darash of Nachman, Mishum Rabbeinu Shmuel. Yochid Noisla Beis Asayim. So Rav Nachman, the Amayr, is darshaning in the name of Rabbeinu Shmuel that this is the guidelines for how you surround yourself with these makeshift situations. Yachid Noisla Beis Asayim. If you're a Yachid, you can get 2 saws of these shvach walls. Beis Noisla Beis Asayim. If you are 2 people, you also are limited to 2 saws. There's no difference between 1 person and 2 person. You're going to have to manage within the 5,000 square amas. Gimel, once you have 3 people, then you're on a different madrega. Now you're a shayara, you're a caravan. Gimel nasu shayara v'loisam beis sheish.
What about the other end? In other words, the thousands of people in this caravan.
Or if you're
saying if you're 3, but that's okay. So you can fit in more than 2 bases side. But if you're 1,000 people or 500 people, you're going to need space.
Interesting. Okay, right now we don't see any allowance to go more than at least according to Rabbi Yehuda. I mean, the Rabbanan will say you take as much as you need. But let's see. A good point. But right now we don't see any allowance on that other end. So let's see here. So now this is Rav Nachman Amayra talk. This is not a quote of a brisa. This is Rav Nachman that's pasking for Klal Yisrael. So the Gemara has a problem with this. What are you saying over here? So if you're 1 or 2 people, you have 2 saws. If you're 3 people, you have 6 base saws. Fret the Gemara Shafkas Rabbanan Vavdis Rabbi Yosef Yehuda. So Rabbi Yosef Yehuda is the one who didn't like who even by a shayara, right, gave limitations and said, I don't like this whole, one-dimensional type of wall situation, so I'm going to limit it. If you are, I'll grant the shayara 6, but not more than 6 beisas, 15,000 square amas. So you're following Rabbi Yosef Yehuda against Rabbanan. That's a little strange. So Hadar Ukim Rav Nachman Amara Alei. Okay, then Rabbi Yehuda, after hearing this question that levied against him, he says, you know what? Let me redo this. And let me get an Amayra, one of the the orators who said over the shir, Hadar Ukim Rav Nachman Amayra v'darash, and he put an Amayra next to him and he darshan like this. Dvarim shemati lifneichem ta'asem biyadi. The word that I just told you before was mistaken. I have to go back and offer a retraction. Okay, and unlike the papers who put their retractions in a small little thing in the back of the newspaper, no one can see it. When it comes to Torah, you offer your retraction the same way you said it in the first place, and that is everybody has to hear it. So he went very public on this. And what did he say? Baram kach amru. However, this is what indeed was said. Yachid noislam beis asayim. If it's 2, you can give a beisa. If it's 1 person, you give him 2 saws. If it's 2 people, you give him 2 saws. Right? Shnaim noislam beis asayim. Shleisha nasu shayara v'noislam kol tzarchan. Okay, if once you have 3, you become a shayara, and now you get as much as you need. So that answers your question. That now we switched it. That you get whatever you need. If you have 1,000 people, you need a lot of space. So no problem. Okay. So what did he do? So he heard the criticism, and he changed, but he didn't change all the way. All he changed was the status of the shayara, and he said the shayara gets as much as you need. But on the 1 or 2 people, Did he adopt the Chacham's opinion? He did not. The Chacham say that even a Yachid gets as much as he needs. So we attacked Rav Nachman. We said, what are you doing leaving the rabbis and leaving the Chachamim and going with the Yachid? And all he did was he sort of changed halfway, but he didn't change all the way. So what's going on? So says the Gemara, Reisha Rabbi Yosef by Yehuda v'Sefer Rabbanon. Okay, so I understand. So Rav Nachman, I'm glad that you heard my criticism of you and you made a new shir and you put up an Amira to change the situation. But at the end of the day, your first statement still follows Rabbi Yosef by Yehuda, and only your Sefer follows Rabbanon. So what's going on? Whereas what's going on is exactly on the mark. Because when it comes to the first halacha, Rabbi Yehuda also agrees with Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda. Okay, in this halacha of one or two people, Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda says you're limited to 2 sahs. And therefore, then it's not a Shitas Yachid anymore. It's Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda, a father-son tag team match, that they say the same thing, right? Because Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda says, I don't buy into this makeshift wall allowing more than 2 sahs unless you're a caravan. Okay, if you're not a caravan, I'm limiting you to 2 sahs. Even though the Chacham disagree with the 2 of them, but at least now I have 2. Once I have 2, then I'm good to go. So look at the top Rashi. Reisha B'Yosi by Yehuda the Kama Yochid Beis Sayim. Okay, you follow Rabbi Yossi in the Reisha who says that a Yochid only gets 2 sahs. The Rabbanon, right? Because according to Rabbanon, there's no limitation by Yochid. I feel Yochid called Tzarchon Yavinon. According to Rabbanon, right? You give him even a Yochid whatever he needs. So the Gemara says exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing here. I didn't make any mistakes. Mishum the koi avuad b'shita say. The Gabi Yachid come when it comes to the Yachid, come Rabbi Yehuda nami the einois lo ela beis asayim. In these makeshift shvach mechitzes of either vertical or horizontal, these dimensional, one directional mechitzes, Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda agree that I will not give a yachid more than 2 sahs, right? So when it comes to a yachid, the 2 of them are together. When it comes to the shayara, then Rabbi Yehuda jumps ship and he goes over to the chachamim, and then he says, for shayara, I'll give you whatever you need, and Rabbi Yosef says, no, I'm going to give you only 6. Right, so there are 3 opinions, but in any 2 of the cases, there's only 2 opinions. Right, it's Rabbi Yehuda being moving from one to the other. So you have the Rabbanan saying you always get whatever you need. Okay, you have the Rabbi Yehuda saying by Shayara you get what you need, but a Yachid you don't get what you need. And Rabbi Yosef by Yehuda is saying by Shayara you don't get everything you need, you get only 6 sahs. Okay, so there are 3 opinions, but they sort of overlap along the way. And therefore, when it comes to Rabbi Yosef Yehuda being a Yachid, that's where Rav Nachman jumped ship. So I'm not following Rabbi Yosef, and I will accept your criticism that what am I doing following the Yachid against a Rabbin? But when it comes to the issue of Shayara, when it comes to the issue of a Yachid, then I'm gonna jump on Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosef Yehuda's bandwagon, and they both say you're limited to 2 sahs, and that's where I'm going to ignore the Chachamim and follow them and limit you to 2 sahs for a Yachid. Okay. Great. So we got everything lined here, and let's proceed. Omar Rev Gidel Omar Rav Shloisha b'chamesh asurin b'sheva mutarin. So you have 3 people in 5 beisahs worth of area. Okay, that's asur. B'sheva mutarin, but in 7 beisahs it's mutter. That sounds pretty cryptic. So 3 and 5 is asur, 3 and 7 is mutter. So obviously we want to know what that means. So he says, Amrulei, Amrav Hachi. So they said, did Rav really say this? Okay, because it sounds a little strange. He says, Amaluhu, he answered back, Araisa Nevi'e Uksive de Amarav Hachi. Okay, I commit to you by the power, it sounds like a Lashon Shua. Rashi says Shuahu. It is a Shua. I swear to you by the Torah, by the Nevi'im and the Ksuvim that indeed Rav said this. Interesting Shua. Okay, so I swear to you that indeed Rav did say this. As cryptic as it might sound, as inexplicable as it might sound, that's what he said. So what does it mean? Now that we know that he said it, so what does it mean? So he says, so Rav Ashi, okay, so Rav Ashi says, I don't know what's bothering you so much. Like you couldn't believe that he said this. I have a very clear understanding of what he meant and what he said. So Amar Rav Ashi, my kasha, Dilma, what's so troublesome to you that you can't understand what this means? That 3 and 5 is asur and 3 and 7 is mutter. Dilma hachi kamar. This is what Rav meant. Hutzur chulish sheish v'kifu b'sheva. If 3 guys who need 6 and surround themselves with 7, hafil b'sheva mutaran. So you can go in all 7. Because there are 3 of you, you're a shayara. Okay, you need 6 to get along and to have all your stuff and to have your family and your whole entourage comfortable. And you surround yourself with 7, which means you just went over 1 saw, over what you need. That's mutter. That's fine. That's fine. You're good to go. However, if all you need is 5 and you went 7. Afil b'chamish asurin. Then even in the 5, you can't carry, because in other words, you can't say, "Well, okay, I won't carry the part that I don't need." Your surrounding, the whole deal was not acceptable in terms of how you surrounded yourself, and that's going to be usur. Okay, let's just catch up in the Rashis here. He says. So the last wide line of Rashi, Shalosh b'chamein asurin klema pamim gimel anoshim asurim afil b'chamesh. There are times that 3 people in an area of 5 will not work. Okay, b'chamesh soin upamim shemutarin afil b'sheva. And the times that it's mutter even in 7. So how does 3 asur? When is 3 going to be asur in 5? And when is 3 going to be mutter even in 7? How does that work? So he says it does. I mean, did Rav really say such a thing? So he says, yeah. I swear by Tanakh that indeed that's what he said. So what does that mean? So Rashi comes along and says like this: if you need 6, shesi below Erev, or you did it the shvach way, you went vertical without horizontal, mutar and b'sheva. Okay. You're allowed to carry in all 7. The leka base is sign pun. You don't have two base saws worth of open space. You have only 1 base saw, and that's acceptable. He said you can't go 2 over. But all you need is 5. The kiful zayin, and you surround yourself with an area of 7 base saws. You went 2 base saws over your basic necessary space. Afil behinami asurin. You can't carry even in the 5. The hashal mahani mechitzas, your whole mechitzas when it came tumbling down. Your whole being surrounded is not valid, right? Because you went 2 more than what's necessary, and the Rabbanan say you can't do that. You can't go 2 more than what's necessary. So this makes a lot of sense. So there's no reason to get disturbed. There's no reason to get upset. Rav said it, and he makes a lot of sense in saying it. Okay, so the Gemara is not fully happy yet. Back to the Gemara. But that which it says, right? So that which it says that as long as you have 2 base saws, you don't have 2 base saws available, empty and unused, right? You can't go more than 2 base saws over your allotment. That's what the Chacham say. So my lav ponimi adam. It means that it's unavailable for people, meaning that you went 2 saws over your allotment per person, right? Isn't that what it means? So if you have 3 people, what should your allotment be? 6 saws, okay? And if if it goes by per person, you should be allowed to go up to 8, right? If that's the pshat of don't go more than 2 base saws, you should be up to allowed 8. Right, let's do this Rashi. My lav ponimi adam. It means that it's going to be unavailable or unused, I should say, for the people. Kegoin. So this is how we thought the pshat of that statement was. Kegoin shloisha shekifu chesoin. That it makes sense that 3 people surround themselves with 8 saws. The chiyov is l'chol chad beisasayin. That when you give 2 people, each person 2 saws, akati poshlu beisasayin poni below bailim. That leaves you two base saws available without any owners, without any reason for that person to access it. There's no reason. You have what you need. You have two saws each person. Aval Zayin, but when you have 7 base saws, the low that would Aval Zayin Lloyd, but you can't go 7. One second. But you wouldn't say by Zayin it's a problem. I guess that's you have to read it. The Chiyuv is basis Saim l'chol chad, right? Because when you give each person 2 saws, 2 base saws, loy pashul el chad base saw, loy bailam leaves you only 1 without any owners, and that's okay. So the Gemara does not understand why 3 people at 7 should never be a problem, right? So we don't understand, because we thought the pshat of that was you give each person, it goes by the person. Each person gets 2 saws, you can have 8. That would go 2 above. But to have 7 should be okay. So how could Rav ever have said 3 into 7 sometimes doesn't go? When if you're surrounded, if all you need is 5, then 7 doesn't work. Why should that be? To which the Gemara answers, you have wrong pshat in Rav. Rav was not counting heads. It was not a head count situation. Loi ponim mikalim. What Rav was referring to is determining the needs based on the vessels you have. Loi ponim. Look at next Rashi. Lo ponim mikalim klaimar. Sheish bein hamachitzas beis asayim punish lo yitzrichan loy. The only issue is whether you or not you have things to put down that will need space less than a base saw's worth of empty space. But that's how you calculate. You don't go by the heads. You go by the head. You start. You're right. Then you have 6 base saws to start with, and you can go up to 8 to give you 2 extra. But it goes by the actual utensils and things that you have. So how much you have after you put everything down, how much open space? Even though they are 3, if 3 guys are very comfortable in 4 base saws, you can't go 7 just because you can. It doesn't work that way, because you're given 6, you can go up to 8. No, it doesn't work. It's about the kalim. It's about who your whole entourage and how much space they actually need to put all their vessels down. Obviously, a human being only takes up an amma, right? We're talking about the reason you need more is because you have your couches or whatever else you're taking with you. Okay, he says im ein tzrichen ela beis asayim v'kifu dalit soin nami ba'la mechitzos. If you need only 2 saws and then you have dalid, that's also going to be a problem. So we don't judge it by the person; we judge it by the actual necessity of your life. Like you take a look, where are you living? If you're going to be living in the right side, you can't go and take as much space as you want on the left side. It doesn't work that way, right? It goes by the actual practical, factors on the ground, as opposed to this, notion that per head we give you 2 saws. So you mistook that.
I'm giving you 2 saws maximum per head.
Not when you.
In other words, like this example here, the guy's on the right side, but as time goes on, he may need the rest of that space.
Well, I mean,
So
we're worried about this Shabbos. This Shabbos, how much do you need? So if you need that.
So what's going to stop him from carrying on the other side then? He has to put up a lechi, or he has to put up something to let him know where it ends?
Well, again, before you make your surroundings, you make sure you have less than 2 saws of open space. That's the halacha. That's what take as much as you need, but you can't extend your area more than 2 base saws. How do you figure out how much you need? It does not work by the head. It doesn't mean if you have 5 guys, you're given 10 base saws, and then you're limited to 12. It doesn't work that way. How much are you 5 guys going to be using?
To take as much as you need and up to 2 saw more.
Right. Exactly. But it doesn't go by the head.
Right.
And that's the difference. So when the Gemara asked the kasha, the Gemara thought it went by the head, and the Gemara is answering, no, it does not go by the head. It goes by the space,
a caravan case?
by the kalim.
Is this just for a caravan case, or is this?
Well, according to the Rabbanon, no, it doesn't go by. It goes for any grouping.
So your house would be at one end of this thing. You're saying that he's limited to. Even though he's got all this land, he's limited to...
Again, these are shvach, only by shvach walls. If you have real walls, That's no limitation. This whole discussion, when you're dealing with these shvach walls of either vertical or horizontal situations, then we have all these limitations, right? So according to, right, in other words, right, so this whole halacha was not in the world.
This guy here can solve this problem by a couple of poles, basically. So you have verticals instead of just having horizontals. If you had
Things would be different.
Then you could have that whole
Yeah. Then yes, then you can have what you want, right? So according to Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, it's 2 per person, right? A shayori gets 6, and then up to 2 more. But the Rabbanan don't live by that concept. They basically say you have unlimited, but it's what you need, and from what you need, you have up to 2 base saws more, but not more than that. And what you need is not based on a head count, but it's based on your actual functional usage of how you're going to make things work. Okay, so we'll, Bez Hashem, pick this up next week.